President Trump has commuted the life sentence for Alice Marie Johnson. This comes just a week after Kim Kardashian met with the president to petition him on Johnson's behalf. Kardashian thanked the president today and called it, quote, the best news ever. Johnson is a 63-year-old woman serving a life sentence for drug possession and money laundering charges. She has spent more than 20 years behind bars. Earlier, my colleague Rena Ninan spoke about this with the AP's Zeke Miller.
Joining me now, CBSN political contributor and Associated Press White House reporter Zeke Miller. Zeke, what can you tell us about this commutation?
Well, the White House says this fits into the broader pattern of the president looking for instances where he can use his executive powers of the pardon and clemency to affect cases where he believes that there's some sort of injustice or people have been treated unfairly. Some of that, of course, does strike a bit closer to home for him, like we saw last week with the Dinesh D'Souza pardon and others, where he believes there's political motivation to those prosecutions. Here, it seems to be an instance where a prominent celebrity backer, somebody who the president knows, has been able to influence his thinking on this matter. Kim Kardashian West visiting the White House last week. That seemed to have affected the president. There was some internal discussion at the White House whether or not this commutation should have been granted. Some close to the president, including his chief of staff and others, according to a number of reports, that they were against this commutation. They didn't want the president to take this action, in part because they didn't believe the case warranted the president weighing in. But the president sort of overruling that, going his own way, listening to advisors like Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, who had brought Kim Kardashian West to the White House last week for that meeting and had backed this action.
You know, we've talked a great deal about pardons in this administration. We were just looking back at previous administrations. Obama pardoned 212 people in 8 years. George W. Bush did 208 years. Bill Clinton, 456 in 8 years. There were reports that the president has been somewhat fixated on his abilities to issue pardons. He was asked by aides to actually compile a list of possible candidates, according to multiple reports. So how unique is it when a president comes to offer a presidential pardon at this point?
Well, it's one of the things that the Constitution vests power solely in the president. He doesn't need Congress. He doesn't need the courts. He can do it himself, and it's over and done with. So it's one of those areas where if he feels like his agenda is being stymied on Capitol Hill or in the courts, he can take an action and do something positive. It's something he can do. He can control that moment all by himself. At the same time, talking to people inside the White House, it does come as he feels sort of the encroaching pressure of the Mueller investigation, not necessarily so much on himself, but people around him, members of his family, political allies, and the like. So there is a political component there as well, if he's trying to sort of highlight instances of what he proclaims to be injustice or politically motivated prosecutions, like some of the other ones that he's taken action on. That would sort of draw sort of the implicit contrast that the president seems to be trying to make the way he talks about the Mueller probe, the way he talks about that Russia investigation broadly.